Welcome to the Civic Pulse. Civic means society, and the Civic Pulse looks at what's going on between families, our neighbors, and our government. Every month, we connect with diverse influencers, change makers, and leaders. These are conversations at the intersections across America. Let's go. Good afternoon. I'm Dilara Sayeed, and I'm the president of the Muslim Civic Coalition and your host today for the Civic Pulse. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Sister Dr. Barbara Reid. Sister Barbara is a Dominican sister of Grand Rapids, Michigan. She's served on the CTU faculty since 1988, and she currently serves as president of the Catholic Theological Union. Sister Barbara is one of the leading scholars in feminist interpretation of the scriptures. I think we're going to have a great conversation because I have so much I want to learn from her and so much I want to discuss. She's the general editor for the Wisdom Commentary series, a new 58-volume feminist commentary on the Bible published by Liturgical Press, and she's past president of the Catholic Biblical Association. She received an honorary doctorate from the University of Graz, Austria, and was inducted into the Aquinas Hall of Fame in 2016. I'm so excited to speak with you, and thank you for joining us, Sister Barbara.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much for the invitation to chat with you today, Dilara.
And as we've been getting to know each other, I really come to see you as a sister, both in faith and a sister in the civic world that we live in right now. Look what we're doing. We're celebrating and commemorating Lent on our way to Easter. In our faith of Islam, we just finished the holy month of Ramadan in reflecting and fasting every day to try to come out on the other end a little bit better, a little bit stronger, a little bit more spiritual. So we're in this really interesting moment in history. What does it mean to be the leader of a Catholic institution in 2025 in the heartland of America?
Thank you, Dilara. Nothing like starting with a really easy answer. Easy question, I mean. It is such a great privilege to be leading this institution. Catholic Theological Union began in 1968. We opened our doors. I say we, although I didn't come till 20 years after that. But it started when 3 men's religious communities closed their individual seminaries and created a union of the 3 seminaries with a new vision for how to do seminary formation. So it was right after Vatican II, and lots of new ideas are brewing in the church. And one of them was put forth by Cardinal Sunens, who was an important figure in Vatican II, and he was giving talks at the University of Chicago, where he suggested that how seminary formation should happen in Roman Catholic seminaries is not out in beautiful bucolic places away from everyone else, but right in the midst of the city, near a major university where there could be robust intellectual exchange, but also where there would be abundant opportunities for ecumenical and interfaith encounters. And so CTU, located right within a mile of the University of Chicago at 54th and South Cornell, and welcomed those that first year, about 100 students. All of them were male religious members of religious communities preparing for ordained ministry. And within a year, the faculty began talking about we need to think bigger than ourselves, and we need to expand. And so within 2 years, they welcomed their first lay woman student at CTU. I can't imagine what it would have felt like to be her in a sea of seminarians. But shortly after that, quite a few women religious joined CTU as students and then as faculty members. And so it's grown over these last almost 60 years to where now our student body has about 40% of head count wise are seminarians from the religious orders, and some of the men religious are
Mhm.
brothers who aren't studying for ordained ministry but other kinds of ministries. And then about 10% are women religious. We've shrunk in numbers in the last years. And then about 50% of our students are lay women and men,
Mm.
preparing for all different kinds of ministries in the church. So it is, and about a third of our students are international students.
You're leading into my second question because I actually had two intersections that you spoke about that I want us to kind of dig into. One is
Mhm.
I introduced you as a leader of CTU, as the leader of CTU, but you are a woman in the lead at CTU. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit about that. And then we'll dig into a little bit of the faith intersectionality. As you spoke about, you now have Catholic Jewish studies, Catholic Muslim studies, and the fact that many of your graduates may not even go on to do more work as a faith leader, but may go back into lay life.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about being the woman leader at CTU.
Well, I was extremely fortunate when I joined the faculty at CTU in 1988. One of the things that attracted me so much to this school is that there were already a significant number of women on the faculty.
Mm,
And unlike many Roman Catholic schools of theology and seminaries, we have always had a healthy percentage of women on the faculty, or I should say, once women started coming onto the faculty, we grew to a very steady 30 to 40% of the faculty
mm,
have been women over the last decades, and that's a higher percentage
yeah.
than most other Roman Catholic schools of theology and ministry, and a higher percentage of women students than most of the other Roman Catholic schools as well. To my knowledge, there's only been one other, well, there have been very few women deans, and I served as CTU's dean for 9 years.
Mhm.
There have been, there's been, to my knowledge, only one other woman who served in the equivalent role of president, but their school was an embedded school in a larger university. Ours is a standalone seminary, independent, and it's very interesting when I go to rectors' meetings. That's the term that's used for the leader of a Roman Catholic
Mhm.
seminary, when I'm the only woman in the room, and we have interesting conversations. But I think because I had been at CTU for so long and had already served as the vice president and academic dean that everybody knew me and trusted me when
Yeah,
I was appointed
yeah.
president 5 years ago, and so it it was a fairly easy transition. I don't know if a woman from outside the
Mm,
institution would have been accepted as the leader.
mm.
Um,
I
but
I think
CTU has formed me, and I'm very happy to help form the students and faculty and staff that make CTU such a unique and wonderful place now.
yeah, yeah, and I
Mhm.
think you spoke the key word, which is trust, right? When people trust each other, gender roles can be overcome. Intersections of faith can be overcome. Differences can be overcome when there is trust and a relationship built. And you were able to do that, moving from dean to president of the Catholic Theological Union. And so here we are in the other intersection I wanted to dig into, and that's faith. There have been tensions across faith boundaries in Catholicism, in Islam, in Judaism, dating back hundreds and hundreds of years, right? Many of us know a little bit about the Crusades and the idea of, cleansing, uh, Jerusalem of infidels, and that included Muslims, Jews, etc.
Mhm.
And then here we are now in another moment in time when divisions across religions are being used to drive wedges between people. How do you, as a leader of CTU, a Catholic institution, overcome the wedges and the divisions to work with communities across faith boundaries?
Mhm.
Because you do it well. How do you do it?
Thank you, Dilara. It's a great learning experience. I would say that at CTU, we're extremely committed to building a just and peaceful world, and that a big part of that certainly has been learning how to navigate across boundaries of difference in peaceful ways and create peace and learn skills for reconciliation where there have been such tremendous hurts, not only between individuals, but whole nations and whole groups of people that have been deeply wounded by the actions of the others. And I was very fortunate to learn a lot about not only the skills building, but also the theologies behind how you do reconciliation and peace
Mm,
building well from one of my colleagues, Robert Schreiter of blessed memory. He was a real groundbreaker in um, in how to learn these skills and the theologies behind them, and how to put those into practice.
mm,
He was in very high demand, including to help bishops in countries that were war torn, uh, bishops and civic leaders in how to construct processes of national reconciliation after wars. And he was also especially attuned to interreligious dialogue. And so, through our Bernardine Center and through our Catholic Jewish and Catholic Muslim Studies
mm,
programs, and then with our In Good Faith, Tri-Faith efforts, we have tried to come to better understanding of one another, but also tried not to skirt around the divisions and the causes of pain among us. I'm privileged in a few weeks to lead a trip to Spain with my colleague Sayeed Rizwan, who you know well, who directs our Catholic Muslim Studies program, and with Professor David Shayevitz from Northwestern, who will give the Jewish perspective on the trip. And the three of us will not only give input during the trip on the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish heritage in each of the places that we visit in Spain, but also try to make it a kind of laboratory in interfaith encounter. And of course, it would be impossible not to speak of some of the most painful times in the history of our three faith traditions, that some of which are rooted in Spain. So, the Inquisition, for example, and the expulsion of Jews and Muslims from Spain in 1492. We will necessarily speak about the painful chapters of our histories, and speak about how we work together to build a more just and peaceful world together, trying to learn from the mistakes of the past and not repeat the history of the past.
How do we reconcile today's challenges when we have models that are bringing the world together, and yet the politics of the world almost makes it so that people of God can't come together? How do we
Mhm.
reconcile that?
It's a difficult thing to, um, when you're a faith leader, it's a difficult thing to speak on political topics in which you don't have any direct role or influence. And so I think at CTU, the route that we take more often than not is that we double down our efforts to teach about peace building and
Mm,
reconciliation, and to engage in dialogue across boundaries of difference, and to prepare faith leaders who are confident in in these kinds of skills to build a more just and peaceful world, and um, uh, not to back away from difficult situations in which they can make a difference in building peace.
yeah.
Um, and I'm proud to say that we've that we form not only Christian leaders, but we've had a number of stellar Muslim grads from
Mm-hmm.
CTU.
Mm-hmm.
One who's the first female chaplain in the military.
Mm-hmm.
We and several others who are in chaplaincy positions now. We've also had several Jewish graduates
Mm-hmm.
who are doing similar kinds of work, and we've also had some of our Christian graduates who are so um, taken up with what they've learned about Islam, for example, that
Mm-hmm.
I know of two of our graduates at least, and I may be forgetting others, who went on to do doctoral studies in Islam and who are now doing important interfaith work in
Yeah.
other contexts.
Yeah.
So we do everything that we can to make a difference where we are, and both in our local situations and also trying to have a global reach
Yeah.
through the international groups to which we belong and where we have influence.
Yeah. And
And
I truly appreciate your word influence, because you're right. We don't always have a direct line to a command or a control of a situation, but we all have a circle of influence, and we work
Mhm,
within our circle of influence.
mhm,
And yes, I think often of divisive faith leaders, but I also then think often to uplift faith leaders that are bringing people together. In your own institution, I think of Dr. Scott Alexander, Dr. Of course,
mhm,
Dr. Sayed Rizwan. You spoke of him, and yourself. I think of like some of the greatest faith leaders and civic leaders in American history, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.,
mhm,
right? Even Muhammad Ali used his faith to make strong, courageous comments and influence people about war, influence people about hate, and overcoming it to love each other. Um, so many times it's been people of leadership that have divided us, but people of faith, true faith and leadership, that have brought us together.
yes.
I wish the best for our pontiff. How is Pope Francis? We know he had gone through some really challenging health issues. What's the prognosis now? I mean, the world needs this Pope and needs him to get better.
Mm. I share your wish and prayer most sincerely, and people of all different faiths have been praying so hard for his recovery,
Hmm.
and he's a man of great surprises. You know, there are people who did not expect him to recover from this
Mm,
latest illness, but he's making seemingly wonderful progress, and he has made several surprise appearances, public
mm,
appearances, in the last 10 days or more since he's been home from the hospital. I just read that on Palm Sunday, he made a surprise appearance at the at the end
mhm,
of the outdoor mass for Palm Sunday, and was greeting worshipers there, much to their delight,
mhm,
and had appeared without the assistance of oxygen. So
mm.
that's a very good
That's
sign,
great. That's
and
great.
we're very hopeful.
Yeah.
He's done so much that is going to have, I hope, a very lasting impact on the church. I think one of the things that is directly attributable to his influence is these last two synods, the last two Octobers, where he has been insisting on a more inclusive church, and
Hmm.
where not only bishops come together to make all the decisions, but that lay people, men and
Mm,
women, have a stronger voice in making decisions that matter in the church. And he's introduced a process that is deeply embedded in his own Jesuit tradition of discernment. But many of us too in the church are very familiar with such processes. But
mhm,
he has raised this to a level, uh, we call it now synodality, but he has made it a household word now among Christians, and has taught us how to listen deeply to one another, how to engage in dialogue where you are not trying to uh, prepare your rebuttal for what the other is saying, but you're
Yeah,
deeply trying to
listening.
listen to what the other is saying, to hear the truth of as they see it,
Hmm.
and to try to be curious about what they're saying, and to hear the possibilities, and then in prayer to wait and discern, let the Holy Spirit guide. And it's not a democratic process whereby majority rules,
Mm.
but out of a deep listening process, there emerges the way forward as it seems that the Spirit is directing, and then can take the church in surprising new directions.
It is a better route to
Mm.
use these universal values that we have. So, yeah, I'm glad that our Pope is leading the way on that. Many in our faith traditions are leading in that as well in America and across the world. I hope he's well. We are planning a trip to Italy as a family,
Oh,
and I am hoping that on our trip to the Vatican, we may be able to see him in public, and that would be so amazing.
I hope so.
So we are, in the time of Lent, and we are about to commemorate Good Friday and Easter. And in this deeply, deeply holy time in the Catholic faith and in the Christian faith, what are your hopes? What are your prayers for your community and for all our communities across the world? What will you be praying for, Sister Barbara, this week?
I have been and will continue, especially to pray for hope. This is for we Catholics. Pope Francis has declared this a Jubilee year, and has chosen the theme of hope, and asked us to deepen in our ways of being pilgrims of hope. And I think now more than ever before, it is harder to be hopeful, but more needed now than ever before. There are so many things that seem to be destructive and cruel in our world.
Mm.
There are so many things happening right now that seem to me to be ignoring the people who are the most vulnerable and the most needy. It is breaking my heart, for
Mhm.
example, that our country is not among those who are helping the people of Myanmar recover. We are letting tons of food rot in ports that can't be distributed by USAID now that it has been put on pause. And those kinds of things really want to make me despair
Mm.
and make me terribly upset that we've always been known as a country that's deeply compassionate and generous. And so my dearest prayer and hope is that we don't lose hope, and that we don't ever lose sight of the people that are most vulnerable in our world, and that we find the ways to be that compassionate presence of God to those who are most in need,
Mhm.
especially those of us who have everything we need.
Yeah. I think hope is exactly what we're all praying for. Um, in Islam, we talk about He has a plan, and faith is sometimes knowing that He has a plan and that it will be revealed, and hoping that we can be part of that plan, right? To put it into peace, that there will be justice. He has a plan for justice, and it will be revealed, and we have to work for it. He has a plan for peace. It will be revealed, and we have to work for it. And that's where civic work comes in, right? Like our
Mm.
faith is hope, our faith in his plan, but our work in this world is building that civic society, our work with each other, our work building relationships, our work feeding the hungry, and ensuring um, that we, our families, whatever power we have, and our governments are striving towards a better world. That's civic work. That's civic
Yes.
society. And I'm really grateful that in this very religious and faith-filled moment that you were able to spend some time with us and talk about this. Is there something that I didn't ask you about faith and about civic society that you want to share?
Oh, thank you, Dilara. I I guess the thing that I'd want to end with is that there is so much more that people of faith have in common than what is different between us, and that I'm so grateful to be living at a time when we deliberately seek one another out
Mhm.
and form alliances to create a better society and to take actions together. I think, for example, earlier you named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and immediately what came to my mind was images of faith leaders of all different traditions who joined arms
Mhm.
with him and marched for civil rights in this country, and how that kind of, whether literally or metaphorically, we're linking arms
Mhm.
to create a more just society and a more just world. I'm so glad when that is part of what faith leaders like us consider as normal. Of course,
Mhm.
we would be working with one another. And I think of the work, for example, that the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago are doing to engage all of us across every faith tradition represented in this city, which are very many faith traditions, and all of us with common goals that unite us and common concerns for the betterment of humanity, and doing it from each of our own faith traditions, but jointly together as
Yeah.
well. I'm old enough to remember the days when Catholics were not supposed to be going into even Protestant churches, for
Mhm.
example, much less a mosque or a synagogue. And today I'm so grateful that those things have changed, and that since Vatican II, since
Yeah.
Nostra Aetate, which was issued 60 years ago, that now it's just the opposite. We depend on these relationships, and
Mhm.
we deliberately are building relationships across boundaries of difference, seeking commonality, but also, as we commented earlier, recognizing times when we have hurt one another, and making amends as best we can for that.
Mhm. Thank you, Dr. Barbara Reid, President of the Catholic Theological Union, and have a very blessed Easter. And to our listeners of all different backgrounds, we've been going through a season of rejuvenation with Ramadan, Holi, Vaisakhi, Easter, and then Passover. Um, it will be faith-focused civic efforts that bring us together and create a better world for all of us. We need it, our families need it, and our Creator demands it. So thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
Great. And this podcast, I want to thank Mohammed Ahmed, Subhan Ashrafi for helping us produce it, the team at the Muslim Civic Coalition, and the team at CTU. And congratulations on your brand new recording studio, because you are speaking to it from there. Is this your first podcast from there?
Uh, First podcast, but not first recorded video.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you, and many blessings.